I sketched it in 2014. I really sketched it in 2015, 2016. And finally, 2018 rolled around, and I finally stopped thinking that I had to do it all myself. Because while I had been sketching logos, I had been trying to learn how to code. I'm no software engineer. And here I was surrounded with Arduino kits, trying to get my LEDs to blink while trying to design tank treads to move the robot around. I was swamped. I felt like a fool. I felt like an imposter because I didn't possess the whole skill set. And I was just languishing, and I was descending into depression during that whole time. By 2018, though, with Burning Man, with our Tesla coil finally going off and people from all over the world, I finally realized the one thing I'd been missing all along was the team.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Cheers. Thanks, Giovanni.
We are in Santa Clara, California, post JPM, and we are with Torrey Smith, co-founder and CEO of Endiatx, and we are with Chris Green, angel mind freak turned
Yes.
chief business officer for Endiatx. And we are jumping on to the MedTech Startup Podcast, where we are getting inside the head, the hearts, and the guts, and actually truly the guts with this technology with Endiatx. And with that being said, we're going to jump into not only how they fund the sci-fi technology, we're going to talk to the spirit of this company, and then also keep your eyes open for all of the extra footage that you'll see in this manufacturing center, in addition to some of the electrical engineering that we'll talk about. And then how does Burning Man play into this? So anyway, I want to start with our intimate relationship of you guys having to fly halfway around the world for us, not all that long ago, a few months ago, and we did MedTech Malta together. I want to just throw and lob the question, why was MedTech Malta even important for you guys?
All right, so you tell me that there's a beautiful island in the Mediterranean and that some of the smartest, most passionate people in health tech are going to be there, and that there's a stage where you could walk onto the stage and swallow a robot pill. We have to be there. We felt that Malta would make a lot of sense because as an island, it's kind of a good venue for a telemedicine offering, right? Because PillBot is essentially a bridge between worlds. And so we saw a little bit of symbolism there. And all I can say is that we hope that we can come back and participate in an even deeper capacity.
Not to mention, to be perfectly frank, I had seen your show ahead of time, and I had pictured this moment in the distant future. It's almost unsettling to me that it's come full circle now, and you're proselytizing the case of our product. This is a dream for us to actually be on this show right here.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being on it. And we're going to have a lot of fun here because you guys are characters, you're passionate. I mean, you literally live and breathe this technology. And we've used the word sci-fi before, but at the end of the day, it is a medical device, but there's much bigger passion and picture here. So you guys came all the way around the world, well, halfway around the world, to this beautiful Mediterranean island. You, Chris, swallowed the actual PillBot on stage. And before we get into your backgrounds, and we'll actually verbally touch base on what Endiatx is besides all this awesome footage that we got today, just want to understand, when you take risks and chances on this sci-fi type technology and you actually do live demonstrations and it doesn't go the way that you hoped, what does that mean for you guys in terms of the Silicon Valley based spirit that you have for building this amazing technology?
The Malta stage was a very interesting night for us. So the main stage, the main night, the whole reason we were there, we had even had support from you guys to actually head out there. And so we felt a lot was riding on it. And a lot of the team had been telling me, Torrey, there's a good chance we're going to have a tech problem, right? And they said, what if it's 50-50, or what if it's 30% chance it doesn't work? At what point do you draw the line? And I said, look, it worked a few days ago. It might very well work on the stage, but let me ask you another question. If we say no to an opportunity like this, is that the kind of company that has any shot at succeeding when things get hard, right? The only reason any company ever succeeded is because you swung at every ball that came your way. So interestingly enough, we're up on stage. We have delivered, I think, what was a very heartfelt presentation. You know, we were walking through our slides, really connecting with people, making eye contact, really feeling it. And it comes time for the demo. We actually have a good demo in the fish tank. You know, we're doing a little bit of a live motion, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is it. We're finally pulling off that unicorn demo. Chris swallows the robot, and all of a sudden, just signal goes dark, right? And this is the peak moment. This is what everyone came there, you know, to that part of the event for. And I'm thinking to myself, is this a horror story? You know, is this a nightmare for a founder? And the answer is no. You know, it's just another moment in your founding journey. And so what we did at that point was just started walking through with the audience what we were seeing, what challenges we might be working on. We were able to draw a little bit of attention to our chief engineer, to Cameron, to Kevin, all the guys that were on stage, basically trying to get the best image we could. We got a little bit of a link towards the end, but it was clear at that moment we weren't giving the best demo in the world. But I hope the other thing that was clear is that we are a team on that stage that's not going to give up, right? We're going to get on the stage, we're going to throw down the best pitch we can, we're going to throw down the best demo that we can, and then in the morning we're going to sit down and work that problem. We're going to take whatever we learn into that device. And for the parts that were on the drawing board today, you know, when we walked around, I think you're going to see that a lot of the DNA from the Malta experience is now in the modern bot.
We've chosen to wear our hearts on our sleeves, and that prevents people from doubting the validity of the progression of the technology. We hope it also convinces them of our poise under fire as evidence of our passion. There will come a day when the technology works perfectly, and that may not matter, but if anyone cares to, they can look back and see the entire progression of us building this over the past few years that makes us proud to have brought it this far.
Chris, what do you think? Have you ever been to Malta before?
No, of course not. No.
What do you think about MedTech Malta? Like, what was your experience being there?
Oh, I thought it was fabulous, right? It was the opposite of the antiseptic shows that we've been to in the United States, right? To be set in that, what's like a 17th, 16th century Knights Templar castle, right? That was a wonderful antithesis of the sort of like flat trade shows that he and I have hustled at for a couple of years now.
Right? Yeah, you know, and our intent isn't to necessarily take the industry standard and just purely knock it, but what we're trying to get at is that many of us get into MedTech for emotional reasons, right? Each one of us is going to have a family member or a friend that we're looking back through time and saying, you know, I can't bring you back, but maybe I can save someone else, you know, who's going through this kind of a health condition. And what I saw at MedTech Malta was the passion and the drive and the commitment to pushing the status quo forward. And it felt good to be among like-minded people on that stage and simply just walking around the conference.
Well, 6th through the 8th of November 2024.
Oh, we're sold. Yeah.
Already spoken for. We're there.
It's happening all over again. So we've heard a lot about what you guys have been building. Once again, we toured the shop. We're going to see more of that in this video. But I think to set the stage moving forward and getting into some of the business objective stuff that we want to talk about, I think it's best for the audience to know, who are you? So, you know, co-founder and CEO, Chris Angel Mind Freak, and Chief Business Officer. Torrey, where do you come from? How did you build your life? How did you personally, professionally get to the point where you actually co-founded Endiatx? And then now, Chris, I'm going to toss it over to you. But Torrey, who are you?
Honestly, I feel like I'm the embodiment of the American dream. And what I mean by that is that I think I am experiencing just about every bit of what it is to come up in this country. Initially, you know, my dad built a dirt floor cabin in the mountains, delivered me there. And so I got to live the American experience as like almost on the frontier, you know, building campfires, reading by candlelight. Eventually, my family made it down into the valleys, into the forests. I got to hang out in the forest for a while. My parents eventually, you know, managed to get us to the beautiful coastal town of Santa Cruz in California. And that's where I learned my love of sandcastles. But literally just learning how to make a fire from scratch teaches you the kind of resilience and self-reliance that is kind of necessary later when you launch a company. So I got exposed to a lot of science fiction, so I felt becoming an aerospace engineer was the way that I could take what I read in books and saw in movies and sort of make it real. So I go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, got my butt kicked, failed calculus 3 times. But while I was there, I started doing welding, casting, machining, CNC machining, just anything that would help me actually make something real. And then when I went to work to actually go make some money, I had an opportunity to explore med device. And that was right around the time my Aunt Katie was unfortunately dying from a glioblastoma brain tumor. And the standard of care at the time, which is still true today, is not quite what you would see in Star Trek. Because in Star Trek, what you would see is, Dr. Crusher would put a tricorder over someone's head, and it would make some beeps, and she'd wave it around, and then they'd say, okay, we remove the cancer, right? But here and now, if you have a glioblastoma, what we're going to do is make a big incision. We're going to peel your face over. We're going to take a saw and cut a portion of your skull off. We're going to put that in a stainless steel dish. Then we're going to go in with hand tools, and we're going to go cut away as much of the brain tumor as we can. Try not to cut away the brain. Then we're going to put you back together. You're going to be fine because the best doctors in the world are doing this, right? Then we're going to put you on drugs. We're going to hit you with radiation, and you're going to die in about, overall, if you make it to 18 months from your diagnosis, you're doing really well. And that's what glioblastoma means today. It's no fun at all, right? And that's how we address it today, because those are the only tools we have. And so the question is, what about all that sci-fi, right? What could we do? What if there was a microscopic robot surgeon? What if it was the size of a red blood cell? What if you had 1 billion of them and you could swarm that tumor and just mine away at the edges of it, right? What if you could catch it years earlier because you had your robots going around finding stuff before it ever becomes symptomatic? Now that is truly sci-fi, and I hope to see it in my lifetime. But the crazy thing is, you can accomplish just about anything if you're willing to take the first step. What happens if you don't take the first step? So we started swallowing camera pills back in the 1990s. October 1997, first pill can swallowed. 2001, we get FDA clearance. It's been a quarter of a century. We feel at Endiatx that the time has come to take a new step forward. So I'm not here to give you a molecular army of nanobots, but we are definitely here to give you a robot that can swim inside the human stomach, a robot that can move in 3 dimensions freely, like the tip of an endoscope, a robot that provides a bright live video to the doctor controlling it, and a robot that can be operated entirely through telemedicine so that any patient on the planet, regardless of where they live, regardless of what their income looks like, can have the very best cutting-edge care in the playground of the human stomach. And my hope is that by doing it right there, well, we can go and save millions of lives, but by doing it in the stomach, we firmly put a flag in the ground saying that micro-robotics in the human body has begun, and we wave our arms in an open invitation for people to come and join us and take the next steps, right? From fingertip size to rice grain size and beyond. But we have to start somewhere, and I think let's do it now so we don't lose anyone else, right? Let's simply start the adventure right now.
It's a compelling vision, right? So how am I going to follow up on this? I grew up in Massachusetts. I succeeded at several things in my life on a whole host of fronts and had done well enough that I had some money to invest by my mid-30s. And to be totally honest, I probably could have sort of faded into an easy life and not really achieved much beyond a certain level. But that wasn't enough for me. I didn't want to just check out at 37, 38, right? I came back to this and I've pressed hard to remake myself in a whole new sphere, right? So is it the American dream? Is it the dream of breaking through to the next layer where you're never quite satisfied with who you are and what you're capable of, right? You have regrets. The best anyone can do is stare in the mirror and clearly acknowledge them and say that you will soldier on despite, or perhaps specifically because of your own shortcomings and make the most of your potential, right? In terms of my family, I had just assumed and accepted my whole life that I never got to meet 3 out of my 4 grandparents because they just died of cancer, right? Both of my grandfathers died long before I was born of cancer, both of colon cancer, actually. And when you turn 40, you're supposed to have a colonoscopy, which I have not done yet, right? So
I built a special robot
Yeah.
earlier. I think
Yes.
we're going to help you out, Chris.
I appreciate that, buddy. I appreciate that. But at the risk of sounding saccharine, it's bigger than just me now, right? I've realized that I'm involved in something that far transcends my own fleshly existence, right? So maybe the day will come when someone judges you on some sort of a legacy, like what have you invested your spirit into? And if we can be at the forefront of a new realm of bringing the best of technology to the medical world, I'm really happy to be here with Torrey and involved.
So we're in the Bay right now, Silicon Valley, and this is a medical device startup, but this is a big idea. This is a swallowable robotic pill. So you guys are creating something that is obviously game changing, and I want to talk about that bigger picture of what you see. But this is a platform to talk about entrepreneurship and really what it means to have that shower idea, or in your case, a Burning Man idea, and actually taking these crazy ideas and turning them into technology companies. What does it mean to start a company of this magnitude and this complexity? And also, what have you given up personally to be able to do something like this?
Well, you have to swing for the fences, because if you're going to do anything of substance, it's going to take all your time, all your money, all your energy. It's going to take your youth. It's going to take your life. It is you, right? It's going to take you. So once you've done all that, you might as well have something to show for it that really represents your true hopes and dreams. Now with Burning Man, it was basically saying, hey, I'd like to show the community that has assembled from all over the world what science and engineering looks like when you just pull away the constraints. And so my co-founder, Dan Moyer, a brilliant roboticist, he's currently at WPI working on his PhD for robotics. Dan came up to me one day and he said, Torrey, we built a giant tower at Burning Man thanks to your geodesic dome, because I thought that was cool. We have a zip line. We have a crow's nest. It's this kinetic, fun thing. But what we're lacking is lightning bolts. And he said, I want to build a giant Tesla coil for our camp. Maybe we could put it on top of the dome or in front of the camp or something. Is that cool? And I was like, of course that's cool. Yeah, obviously that's cool. And I said, how big of a Tesla coil are we talking about? And he said, 5 feet tall. I think, wow, okay, that's a pretty big Tesla coil. And so he said, can you make the aluminum donut, the toroid from which the sparks emanate? And, because I'm the mechanical guy. And I say, sure. So I go to the maker space, and I go ahead and start trying to build donut shapes out of aluminum. Very quickly realized that, wow, it's possible. It's difficult. And I realized there's a machine that makes spiral wound HVAC ducting. And I find one of these machines, there are, I think, less than 10 in the world at that time. One of them was actually in San Jose, right? San Jose, Santa Clara area. So I go in there, I make friends with the people who own the company, tell them about this giant Tesla coil, and they say, yeah, we'll help you make it. You just have to buy a huge reel of aluminum. And of course, yeah, whatever the cost, we'll find a way to do it. But they said, the machine has adjustability, right? How big do you want to make? Because Dan had said make a 2-foot donut, but they said they could make an 8-foot donut. And the key here is swing for the fences. And so I call up Dan and I say, if our toroids were 8 feet in diameter instead of 2 feet in diameter, what would that mean? And he does some calculations and he said, it means we're going to order 380 pounds of copper wire from China right now. And the Tesla coil project went from what is a big Tesla coil we could build to what is the physically largest Tesla coil we could possibly afford to build if everything went right, with no idea where we would store it, no idea how we would transport it, and no idea how we would even erect it. But just what size of Tesla coil would that be? And well, it's 3 stories tall. So we start building this thing, and because of the audacity of the project, we started to attract very interesting people. People who ultimately became the chairman of Endiatx, coming from the Alphabet Google X world, Dr. Alex Lupke. People from Israel who were on the venture capital side, who ended up troubleshooting the electronics, but then wrote the first checks into Endiatx a few years later. People like Chris, who said he was interested in going on an adventure, opening his mind. He wanted to experience Burning Man, but he wanted to do so building something meaningful. And this giant Tesla coil lightning machine in the desert, was that for all of us. It culminated a few years into starting Endiatx with Elon's executive team calling us up and saying, Elon wants your big Tesla coil at the Cyber Rodeo. Can you go to Austin? And so I think it was like March of 2022, we trucked this giant Tesla coil out to the Giga Texas building, and we put on a show at the Cyber Rodeo. And they asked me, what do you charge to put the Tesla coil up? And I said, guys, we make robot pills, right? Like our business is, we're a deep tech company trying to totally change robotic, like micro-robotic telemedicine and create that. We don't charge for the Tesla coil. The Tesla coil is a gift. It's fun. It's something we do to make friends. Maybe you'd cover our expenses, right? And so they said, heck yeah. So we were able to bring venture capitalists, a Wired magazine journalist, and his daughter, right? Like we were being somewhat savvy, if I may say so. But the Tesla coil ended up being the nexus that created the ground that we were able to plant Endiatx in. Because basically, once you've done something big at Burning Man, you might very well then ask yourself, what's next, right? And what's next for us is we need to go back to the real world, and we need to do something that is 365 days a year, something that affects normal people, so that, in the arc of our lives, we can say that we accomplished something real. So Burning Man was sort of like a wake-up call and an on-ramp to where we are today.
Chris, I want to toss it over to you. When you think of the word entrepreneurship, and you've now been living it here, and it's in Silicon Valley, for all those listening in that, it's almost cliche of entrepreneurship going hand in hand with Silicon Valley at this point, but what does it mean to you? You're not originally from here. You're from the East Coast, or Midwest rather. Well, no, East Coast.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to you now living this life of entrepreneurship in the Silicon Valley area?
It's profound sacrifice, right? Like I literally had my RV parked in the shop right here, and I would just work until 1 a.m, sitting right here, and then just walk into my truck and go to sleep, right? And then I would wake up and maybe drive to the gym to shower. So I could save $1,500 a month because we could put that toward the company, which at the time was a very meaningful amount of the capital that we had to spend every month, right? So when we are looking for a new hire, we'd rather have somebody who is handpicked and referred to us and say, this kid's got a ton of hustle, right? Than somebody who applies and says, by the way, is it okay if I don't get there until 10:30 on weekdays because I'm commuting from 15 miles away, or, what's your policy on paid time off? If you lead with that, you're not the right person. It takes extraordinary dedication, and it's very clear to me, and I think about every day, even most people who commit to that still don't succeed.
I mean,
right?
JFK put it really well when he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I mean,
it's broader than that now. It's like, what can we do for the world?
Imagine waking up one day knowing that every other human being on Earth was waking up with the same energy and ambition and vigor and generosity and hopefulness, saying, what can I do for my world today? What can I do for myself, but my entire world? If everyone got up one day with that attitude, we'd be in a completely different universe.
Well, right. Well, Giovanni and I were joking right before we reeled on this, waking up before dawn, doing push-ups in the dark while listening to the meditations of Marcus Aurelius and thinking about stoicism and resolve. And he said, oh, I do that too, right? basically. And then you plugged, and then I said, well, you know who always talks about that is Schwarzenegger, right? And then he said, oh, have you read his new book, right?
No.
So yeah.
Chris,
Arnold, if you're listening, I'm going to read your book tonight.
Well,
Be useful. The 7
Yes.
tools for life is amazing.
Yes.
I love Arnold's rules, right? Work your ass off, advertise, give back, right? Like
Yeah.
those are incredible rules, and that generosity at the end means a lot. But Chris, I know you got your morning ritual. Mine, I feel, is equally important. Wake up, have a huge mug of coffee, all right? Look at rockets exploding because Elon does cool stuff out there, right? And then, try to read an article that means something to me, and then add the journalist who wrote the article, because whoever that journalist is, if they're writing about something that's gripping me emotionally, why not go make friends with them?
Yep.
They might know the VC who funded that founder, right? Go make friends with that founder. But what I've found is when I'm searching out in the world for cool stuff and neat stories and things that entertain me, I'm realizing there's no barrier stopping you from reaching out and finding those people and making friends with them and collaborating with them. That's been the amazing, entrepreneurial wake up for me, is just realizing there are no strict boundaries. If you do cool stuff, or if you're doing something that is going to affect the world, then you have a license to go make some really interesting friends.
We've done it just in the past few days, literally in real life at the JP Morgan Health Conference in San Francisco. In fact, we've walked up to people who you could never have guessed by looking at them and just started chatting with them, and they're the CEO of a company. I mean, it was hard to believe just glancing at them from across the room. But
Well, 6 months ago, Chris said, I feel that the JP Morgan conference could be a really valuable place for us. We could do a lot of networking there. We had closed our biggest check with the Verge Health Tech Fund out of Singapore based on a PillBot demo in a hotel lobby at JP Morgan last year. And so I was telling Chris, how do we get into this conference? How do we ingratiate ourselves, in this community? Well, Chris said, we'll just transfer all of our accounts to JP Morgan. And so Chris just started grinding out the effort and systematically moving us into that ecosystem. And all of a sudden, we have the arms wrapping around us of this incredibly powerful organization that says that they want to advance life science, right?
we will burst through all the boundaries that we formerly imagined were pigeonholing us in life, if ever we imagined that, right? We're past that. The time is now to make something of ourselves and of the opportunity right in front of us.
So I want to jump into a couple major topics because you actually have brought them up already. Team building and fundraising. Let's start with team building. So both of you jump at this. How many people work at Endiatx? How have you found people to come and work for you guys? And then also, what's the type of spiritual profile that actually it takes to work in this sci-fi environment?
Yeah, so we're 20 people total, 10 are full-time. We were really proud to have a pretty good head count here today so that you guys could see the real deal. We do have some people that work remote, but honestly, I feel like your connection to a team is exponentially related to your ability to be bumping elbows, banging out some code, reaching into a fish tank, getting your arm wet, pulling a robot out, peeling off the tape, finding the battery, drying off your fingers, writing more code, designing something, starting a 3D print, processing the parts, getting the goo off.
And then chatting while you eat in the kitchen, of course.
Yeah, it's not all just digital, and it doesn't all just fit nicely on Notion or Slack, right?
Yep.
The way that we recruited initially was, let's fire giant lightning bolts in the desert and see who shows up. That was a great start. But the way that we recruit now is we basically say there's two ways you can do a startup. You can go in stealth, and stealth mode's good in the sense that you're less likely to get copied, right? I think that's stealth mode. Also, I think some founders go stealth mode because if they fail, they can kind of quietly step away from it. But that's not our style. Chris and I are more like, there's an arena, let's step squarely into the middle of the arena and proceed to get our asses kicked together publicly every day, right? So we go the public route. But the reason we're doing the public route is, as Chris said earlier, it helps to build a little bit of trust with the general public. If I say, I want to put tiny robots in your body for a good reason. People might very reasonably ask, why? Is this safe? Are you in an inappropriate manner profiting off of my illness? I mean, there's so many difficult questions someone might have when you start with that premise. But if I say, I've swallowed 25 of my own robots so far, most of them in public. I share the video on my YouTube channel, which is not professionally produced. The reason for all that is just to share the process so that a curious person that wants to do a deep dive can go as deep as they want and find a very passionate founding team that's actually serious about what they do. The other reason, though, is you make amazing discoveries of other humans by doing this, right? There are amazing maker events. There are sort of subculture events like for the maker culture, or people that are like hackers, people doing custom 3D printers. We go to all of those events, do demos, show up, listen to other people present, because we're finding that the craziest, weirdest person in a room is probably the person we're hoping would be willing to talk about joining our company.
What do you think about talent?
I think people need to show up, look me square in the eye, and describe their actual diligence and commitment to something, right? I'm not sold on resumes. I'm sold on actual interpersonal charisma and ability to articulate your passion for getting involved, right? Which is why we've sort of found people organically, and they tend to be pre-vetted, and they don't really accelerate and achieve a lot until they prove themselves in the first couple of months of working here. And then we welcome them completely into the fold, including the very young people, right? I mean, we have people who are 19, 20 years old who have equity in the company and have proven extraordinarily capable at technology and leadership, and we wholeheartedly support that.
Yeah, we're in the process of making a full-time offer to Evan Yip. Evan just graduated high school, and he's looking at college, and we're saying, is there any way you can base your college experience at Endiatx? Like, we'll try to find a way to make sure you can go to class. We'll try to see if maybe we can help pay, right? But the bottom line is, please, Evan, don't leave, because this is one of the most monstrously brilliant people I've ever met. And the reason he's here is that he finds the work compelling, and he says that this is a very interesting group of people, and he just likes being here. And the kind of personality that we're really drawn to is one that sees a challenge, sees how hard it might be, sees how humbling that challenge is when you're staring it down in the face, because
that itself attracts them.
The challenge stares back at you and says, you're not worthy, right? But then you just say, I'm going to try, right? I love the concept of intellectual ambition, that the desire and hope that you might be able to do a difficult thing. Because if you lean into really hard things where you get your butt kicked, you become more interesting over time. And you may very well get smarter every day, just like our buddy Destin, right? Like, the intent is that the challenge in work is going to be something that you can rise to, instead of be afraid of or try to shirk.
So I want to take this ice cold beer that we're drinking and boil it a little bit and just throw a little flair question out there.
All right.
Who's more passionate about Endiatx?
Honestly, I can't look at anyone on this team and tell them that they don't have fire like I have fire. Chris, I think, has more bottled up, just pure, like, one weird philosophical question I've had for the last 10 years is, I have a real problem distinguishing between joy and rage. I almost can't tell the two apart. Like, for me, when I'm 18 hours into a SolidWorks bender and I'm finally doing some crazy surfacing thing and I'm finally seeing on the screen what I've been seeing in my mind, and I realize almost an entire day has gone by and I don't know what day it is, it's like this intense high that just burns for itself. Like, to me, it's almost like, it's like white hot rage or joy. There's this creative fountain. You just have this intense desire to accomplish accomplish something major before you die.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And it's so...
That doesn't occur to you until a certain point in your life, though, but it occurs to you all of a sudden, and I have leaned into that harder than ever in the past couple of years.
It's
How much
suffocating.
hours of sleep did you get last night?
Like 3 or 4, and you can tell by looking at my face too. But right? I
think you look great.
I look terrible, but I actually feel great. Right?
I feel like I'm great.
Silicon Valley
I know,
entrepreneurship.
exactly.
Okay, so speaking of that, I want to get into the next major topic, and I know that you both are passionate about it, and you live it all day, every day
I'm
almost.
gonna say fundraising.
Fundraising. So we just got off of JP Morgan, but talk about MedTech Malta, talk about your big crazy board with all these names on it that's in your office right now. I mean, I want to talk about two things. First thing is, what is it like to raise capital, early stage, mid stage, late stage, for a class 3 science fiction technology that you guys are building? And then what has gone crazy in Silicon Valley with raising capital?
We say class 2, and as of December, so did FDA.
Oh, good for you.
That's a big one.
Okay,
for us,
good.
Right?
So class 2,
Yeah.
not class 3. Sorry about that.
Well, no, it's so salient, right? It's right to the point. If we were class 3, we would have to pump up the value proposition by a whole additional order of magnitude to be taken serious by any investor. And honestly, I think we could do it. But what does MedTech Malta mean to fundraising? MedTech Malta to fundraising means you walk onto a stage, you swallow a robot. That robot doesn't work as you were hoping to, but people see you throw down. And then we do some demos the next day. People walk up to us out of the crowd and said, I'm in for 500,000. We had a German doctor walk up to us and say, I personally am in for 250,000, right? MedTech Malta meant that we came back from the Mediterranean with the next few months of runway spoken for. When we arrived at MedTech Malta, what was our runway like? That was a one-way trip into oblivion for us. We basically said, we're getting on this airplane and we're either going to make the company or we're going to come back to ashes.
And I'm sure Giovanni is about to ask, how does that match with the specifics of what played out on stage at MedTech Malta?
That's exactly
right?
what I'm about to ask.
Of course, right? Well, go ahead. Why don't you describe from your point of view in stark terms what happened?
Well, I was in the audience. So the whole story is we were super excited. I mean, we connected long before MedTech Malta actually took place. You guys wanted to jump on stage. We wanted a big showcase technology to showcase, not only just have another panel about fundraising and what it's like to be the CEO, but actually have this break of showing the audience something live and real and very cool. So you guys came up on stage and threw a pill, meaning you, Chris, swallowed a pill on stage. And everyone's in this audience because we beefed it up, and all of a sudden you're taking this panel and you're trying to show it, and I'm sitting probably either first, second, or third row. I can't remember at this point, but
And you're praying it's going to work.
I'm praying it's going to work because we have hyped it up that this is our showcase. We got a technology that's swallowable robotics, the whole
Here's
thing.
the big spectacle, folks, right?
Right.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there next to my team watching this thing. I'm like, okay, and it wasn't working.
Yeah. Now, that was not the first time that I have swallowed it, and Torrey's been 6 inches from my face, and I've known that it went disastrously wrong and trusted him to carry it completely, right? So that is the centerpiece of how we operate. We are hard on your sleeve, out in the open. If the tech goes wrong, you see us trying our best, and you see us standing our ground with the conviction that the technology will work and that all of the smart people around us are giving their energy to it.
We're going to ferociously pursue that unicorn moment. We're not going to wait until we think we're ready. We have to be ready. We have to go for it now.
So then let's learn about the mechanics. How has Endiatx been financed to date? Like, where's the first check coming from? How much have you raised to date? Is it angels, family offices? Are VCs involved? Like, let's rip this open now.
Yeah.
How are you guys funding yourselves?
Well, the first check was $15,000, and it came from Michael Ernest and his lovely partner, Jocelyn. And that check came from Burning Man artists, right? These are people who built a giant sailing vessel that sails across the open playa under sail. It's a 3-masted sailing ship called the Monaco. And they were willing to entertain our concept of tiny robot pills because they had seen us just refuse to give up for 3 years in a row with the Tesla coil project that really took years and hundreds of thousands of dollars before it actually finally lit up. And so that first check of $15K got committed in the parking lot at Perkins Coie, right? Palo Alto, 100 feet away from Theranos headquarters, right? Which is somewhat ironic, right? But I'm in the parking lot and I get this commitment, and I walk into my car just like in a state of shock because I've been pitching for months. I've been at an accelerator, the Founder Institute. I'd been fired from my med device job halfway through that accelerator for good reason. I got to a point where I just could not bring myself for the life of me to do a single click, a single mouse click more work on someone else's idea that's going to be third to market with something slightly better than what came before, right? And it was a good device. I mean, it's going to improve people's lives. It's wonderful medicine. But I just realized, like, if I don't do something big now, then I need to permanently let go of that part of myself that has childlike wonder and dreams and optimism. I need to just accept my lot in life and not ever complain again. But I wasn't ready to do that. So that first check was huge. I was in my car. I was like driving home. I was screaming. I was crying. I was like pounding the steering wheel. Like there's no way to describe how good that felt. And the checks that have come since, like we raised about $6 million to date since then, the checks come in and they feel good, but nothing is ever going to compare to that first fundraising check, that first time where someone says, yes, we choose you, do this thing, right? That's a big deal. And there's a new kind of feeling, when people start to make commitments, and as the commitments get bigger and bigger, you start to realize how many people are on our cap table that we're going to let down if we fail.
Right. So it's the cumulative weight of all the people who've promised you something, and you want to get back to them and call them up and say, hey, by the way, I made you 100x on your money.
Right.
Yeah.
If we fail, everyone who has ever believed in us, the smartest people we've ever met,
is going to sigh.
Who believed in us instead of 10, 20, 100 other people.
Yeah.
Right. And some of the people who have invested in us are artists from the Burning Man community, where that was a good portion of their life savings, right? Yeah. That was their retirement, or is intended to become their retirement. This is one of the reasons why I do not quit, ever. I will never, ever quit on this. It is just not in the vocabulary.
If I could jump right to a quick irony of fundraising, is that now that we're on the verge of a working product, that actually doesn't matter anymore, right? Like nobody wants to hear about the struggle from 4 years ago and how people were eating ramen noodles and sleeping on this cot right here because they were here 80 hours a week anyway, right? Now there's like, what's the business proposition? Tell me how much the revenue is, right? When you're talking about much larger pools of capital finally, it's ironic that they basically dismiss the heroic energy put into it.
So are you talking about the nuances between angels and family offices
between early fundraising and Series A fundraising?
So when you pitch VCs now, they don't give a shit that you ate ramen noodles.
No one cares, right? In fact,
that's absolutely true. It's not relevant to the narrative.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, for founding teams, for passionate founders, if you're passionate about your idea, your invention, your team, your vision for the future, then you need to become like a cosmic chameleon. Right? You need to become like modeling clay. You need to be shapeable, moldable. You need to flow like water. If you're serious, then you will probably need to wake up and be a different person, an evolved version of your previous self. Every single day, you're going to have to change. Mm-hmm. And so when I am working with someone and they demonstrate an unwillingness to change, and they say, don't ever change, I'm me. It's becoming, I almost feel like exasperated dealing with someone who might not embrace change. Because for me, all I am is change at this point. All I am is simply a desire to change into whatever I need to change into so that this dream can continue to march forward.
Chris, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Use your 4 hours of sleep, 3.5 hours of sleep brain. Most memorable moment that you can share of fundraising for Endiatx to date?
Oh, That one's obvious. When I got the guy who was the best man at my wedding, who actually gives me some credibility from back in the day for being a generally smart person, and I've impressed with my stick-to-itiveness and profound ability to proselytize this cause, I got him to give us a super angel investment of $1 million, basically, which that alone is like 5 months runway.
You know where I was when that came through?
Right there, right?
No,
Weren't you here?
I was at the circus.
Oh,
We were staring death in the face because our runway was sort of non-existent, and basically I was like, "What do you do? Let's go to the circus. Let's just literally watch clowns and performers. Let's watch people who are basically making poetry and art in the most absurd way, and basically, if they can do it, if they can fly through the air, and if they can turn, like an outfit and a cold night and some straw on the ground, if they can turn that into magic, then so can we, right?" But when my phone buzzed and I realized I should probably run out of here and get on it, that's when our chairman said, "So he's in," and it was at twice the check size we've been talking about.
yeah.
So then let me throw the exact same question to you. What was your most memorable moment fundraising for Endiatx?
Okay, so I described that first check, and that's a big one. But something that happened this past year in 2023 that was very meaningful for me personally was when the Verge Health Tech Fund, who we had received an introduction to them through our original incubator, through Founder Institute. And that was roughly like October of 2022 when we received the intro, had the first video call, stuff like that. It was January of 23 at the JP Morgan conference when I was able to put PillBot in the hand of Scarlett Chen, managing partner, Verge Health Tech Fund. Scarlett Chen is based in Hong Kong. Joseph Makanu, creator of this fund, he's based in Singapore. And so I put PillBot in Scarlett's hand, and all of a sudden, it was funny, she said, "Find me in the lobby." And she said, "I'm an Asian lady, I'm in a red coat." There were 10 people who fit that description. It was hilarious. Scarlett was she was like a class act because I was nervous, I was energetic, and we locked eyes, and she's like, "Come here, I want to see this thing." So I put PillBot in her hand, and she had a representative from Johnson & Johnson with her. And both people basically looked at the thing, and I could tell they were impressed. Like I could tell that the physical object was actually helping to make this seem real. And it's like once you hold this thing, you start to enter the world of PillBot. Now you see the world through PillBot's eyes. You see the future through PillBot's eyes. So Verge says that they're interested. Their check size at the time, I think, was like $750,000, which at that time was a big number for us. And she said, I think the next step is we're going to do an in-person at your facility. So she goes back to Hong Kong, and Joseph Makanu flies from Singapore. And this was the first time a venture capitalist had flown literally across the world, right, to come see.
And the only time to date that he's dived as deep and spent several days with the whole team, like the full 9 yards, up close and personal with every element of this.
Joseph said, "I just want the raw, real deal. I suspected from the video call and from your behavior online that you want to show me the real deal. Please just show me the real deal. Let's just talk straight." And so we spent the next 3 days working side by side building PillBots. Couldn't get a single one of them to fly. Didn't matter. We were having lunch together. We were having dinner with the whole team, walking through the problems. He's going through all of our spreadsheets, or sort of lack thereof at the time. And Joseph at the end basically says, "I've come to the conclusion that you guys you're serious. You're the right team to do this. And we're going to have to double the check size because you guys are out of money and you need money." We've always been in this pseudo cash emergency, according to people who know what they're talking about.
Well, we're doing better now, but yes.
Recently, because of your efforts, I would say we're in a totally different
Also,
scenario.
Verge's commitment by no means ended by no means ended there. They've stewarded us through several additional steps, and we're going to be appearing at, actually, I myself am going to Dubai for Arab Health in just a couple of weeks.
Nice.
In the Verge portfolio.
So here's what happens when Verge invests in your company, leads your seed, and takes a seat on your board. The next thing is we get an invitation to go to Hong Kong, where Scarlett Chen personally walks us through skyscraper after skyscraper after skyscraper. And it was funny. She began our tour there, putting us at the Asian Summit on Global Health, right into the Shark Tank. And we managed to win the Shark Tank, which was convenient because then that served as the traction for the 20 in-person VC meetings she had set up for us. Like from boardroom to boardroom to boardroom, skyscrapers where the name of the fund is on the skyscraper that you're pitching, right? Which was a pretty big deal. And we started to realize what strategic support really looks like, right? And it was our first time interacting with venture capitalists who were just as relentless and passionate with their job as we are creating the technology in the first place. And so Chris and I used this opportunity, we used this past year to, in every way possible, try to rise to that example, right? Because Verge basically said, okay, we do actually like you. Now imagine you 10 times more professional. Imagine your financial projections 10 times more well thought out. Imagine your team 10 times more serious. What do you think about that? Do you want to become that? Because we want you to become that. But then they help you become that. So that sort of brackets, that first angel check to what a real venture capitalist can do for a team. That's been quite the experience for me because, the first time I got that check, I was wearing a V-neck glitter t-shirt I had made with my hot press machine. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It said Endiatx and glitter. But very, very much over time, that has evolved into a very different founder persona.
Yeah, now we're having like a charcuterie board at JP Morgan with like a champagne in your hand and a three-piece suit, right?
And the interesting thing is, it doesn't feel false or weird or alien.
We've evolved.
It feels like where we need to be, and we're just kind of excited for what comes next.
Yeah.
I haven't asked this yet. Probably should have done this a long time ago. But you told me stories about how you've been edging out the logo for Endiatx for many years, all this other. What does Endiatx stand for?
Endiatx, well, first of all, you're one of few people that knows how to pronounce it the way we would intend you to. Endiatx. It's 3 words crushed together. It is traditionally, essentially, in a font inspired by NASA worm logo, but in lowercase. I just love the flow of that font. And Endiatx is endoscopy, or simply endo, to go inside, to go in and down through many orders of magnitude into the human body. It's a journey towards the microcosmos. Diagnostics is obvious. Diagnostics is to understand what is going on, what is wrong, what is right, but really what is wrong. And the TX in Endiatx is shorthand for treatment. Endiatx is an adventure into the world of the small, into the world of the human body, with tools, with intent, with a vendetta against disease. Right? We intend to go find cancer where it lives and kick its ass.
Thank you for that. I want to ask the antithesis of my previous question to you. Once again, I've seen that board in your office with all those names of all the numbers and all the people that you're going after.
What's the worst thing?
I'm going to say, what is the most bewildering moment of fundraising that you've experienced where you thought it was a for sure thing and someone went the other way, or not, or it could be something different, but what's your crazy story for raising capital for Endiatx?
Honestly, this is not even going to sound that exciting, but it's the past 18 months are the first time in my life when I would put my best intellectual effort into crafting a piece of communication, assuming there was a 98% chance that I would be literally not even rejected, just ignored, right? Just being ghosted as someone's way of saying no, that takes thick skin to get inured to, and I wasn't used to it until now, right? So that is the most typical experience. In case anyone's wondering about trying to raise funds, 49 times out of 50, they just don't respond.
We're having these bizarre situations in the last couple of weeks where we send 30 emails and we get 20 responses, and we're like,
Yeah.
what the heck happened? Like, people are actually willing to talk to us.
Well, now we've reached milestones, right? So once you have a great FDA meeting and once you have clinical trials coming up, now all of the people who had been circling are pretty much trickling back in. But of course, the logical progression of capitalism is that by then, the valuation of your company goes up, right? Because it's been de-risked.
The weirdest thing for me was back in 2020 in the fall when we had been swallowing the robot for a few months, but we weren't yet necessarily prime time. I mean, I felt that we were, but the entire world didn't know about us yet. And I'm sure it doesn't yet, but perhaps it will. The bewildering moment was I finally get myself on a video call because it's height of COVID, so that's kind of how you're doing your initial fundraising calls, with a seasoned venture capitalist in like deep health tech, theoretically a thesis fit. And it was essentially more or less the first time that we had a real VC with a good thesis fit on the video call, ready to talk to you and hear your deck. And I brought a surprise with me. I brought a live PillBot demo. And so I activated PillBot, put the live video feed up on the Zoom call. So there were 3 of us now, just the VC, myself, and what PillBot sees. I swallow it, start driving around in my stomach, and they say to me, right there, I just don't really see the value proposition. And it was heartbreaking to me because I had been telling my team for 18 months, maybe 20 months at that point, I'd been saying, if you can get me to the moment where we swallow this robot and drive it around inside my stomach on Sand Hill Road or in front of any proper venture capitalist, I promise you, VC money is going to rain down on us like manna from heaven, because that is the universe that I feel that I live in, right? That is the world I choose to live in. So my commitment to the future founder that comes to me and Chris when we're venture capitalists in a few years
is to rise above what happened to us and treat people with more dignity and hear out their proposition and at least tell them no instead of just nothing.
If you show up on our doorstep with a demo with a cool factor approaching swallowing a robot and
we'll
driving
appreciate
around
your
in
heart
body,
if nothing else.
we will watch your demo and we will give you a chance to express yourself. And if we can't invest money in you, we will try to help you in some way. Maybe we'll make some calls. But if you're willing to travel from wherever it is your lab is, be like your living room or your shop or wherever, your incubator, if you're willing to do something real,
then you have chutzpah, and that itself has value.
Yeah, although please, not an enterprise SaaS offering.
Yes, okay. So yes.
Like, no.
Okay.
I do not want to see that. There are other VCs that do want to see that.
Dating apps for dogs, yes.
Dogster?
Yeah, Dogster.
Dogster.
Well, so think about it. Like, your pet loves you, you love your pet. What if you could tap into that kind of intense emotional rush? If you could find a pet app that would match owners to pets, compatible owners, you go on a dog walking date. Oh my God, it's love at first sight. What a good meet cute. Let's make a little rom-com movie out of it. You can make a ton of money doing this, but you're not going to save lives. You're not going to kill cancer. You're not going to cure cancer, right? And while everyone's out chasing a quick buck with their app, people are dying, all right? And while that's going on, we're missing out on this opportunity to explore this great cosmos that we live in. I mean, is no one else curious what's behind the great curtain? I'm terribly curious about that. I want deep tech founder friends so I can ask them interesting questions. Plus, you get invited to more interesting parties.
Truth. Very truth. I wanted to ask a fun question. So you guys have closed your seed round, right? So tell me, right?
We've closed seed. We're wrapping up seed plus, and we're going to do a Series A in the middle of this year, corresponding with more progress in clinical trials.
That's what I wanted to hear. So Series A and the confidence behind that. What's your philosophy on Series A? Who's allowed in? What do they need to bring to the table? What's going on with Series A?
What I would say is Series A is where we bring the real deal to the table. With Series A, Chris and I intend to put a PillBot into the transaction where PillBot simply works as advertised. PillBot is the world's first virtual endoscope We have clinical proof of this. We have dozens of physicians saying, holy cow, I will use this every single day in my practice. Those are the basic foundational items upon which we intend to raise Series A. And that means that Series A is probably the first time we're going to have to turn some money away. Because prior to those terms, people are going out on a little bit more of a leap of faith for you. They're saying, we trust that you're going to nail the optics in the next 3 to 6 months, right? And for that, we can offer a very healthy discount against what's coming, right? Right now, Chris and I have to, look under every stone, get on every jet, get into every room full of LPs. Just let's do anything we can to make it happen.
Including demos that don't go perfectly, right? But we decide we will leverage them no matter, come what may.
But with Series A, if you want to lead that round or you want to participate in that round, get ready to open up your network. Get ready to put us wherever you need to put us to make this thing happen. Because with Series A, we're looking for serious people with serious money that actually want to go change the world. That is the world that we are creating here. We are creating an ecosystem where you can operate tiny robots from anywhere in the world, in a person anywhere on or off the planet. This is an ecosystem that will be completely open for other founding teams to jump into and participate. For the people that come up with a better PillBot or a different PillBot or some other kind of microsurgical device, we intend to have the regulatory ecosystem fully hashed out for them to plug into. This is going to be the new paradigm, right? And we are desperately seeking the moment where we are surrounding a conference table with like-minded individuals, each of whom can actually make that happen.
Yeah.
I got one final question for both of you.
Okay.
Well, one each, separately answered. Objectively speaking, for medical device, Chris, what's broken about the investment world for medical devices?
Oh, it's pigeonholed into short-sightedness, right? Where people are looking, as near as I can determine, because of the bureaucracy involved and the length of time involved in making a profit, people are looking to make a 3x or a 5x on an incremental improvement. Just to be crystal clear, this is a categorical shift away from a now antiquated way of doing things, right? Like, let's have you unconscious in order to penetrate your body with a camera. This is a whole new realm where we're talking about making 100x or 1,000x and then using that capital itself as the battery to believe in future entrepreneurs like us who are doing even more amazing things in the future, right?
Torrey, I want to leave off with you. Thank you for that, Chris. This passion that just wakes you up every single day. I want you to speak to the whole world of potential entrepreneurs. People who are disturbed by how trapped they are in their job, that probably chose the path that you may have if you would have chose your lot in life and just didn't complain anymore. Those people who work at the big companies, who are engineers, who have ideas, who haven't pulled the trigger on leaving and going to pursue them yet. What would you say about if you have a great, crazy, big idea that may take psychedelics to unlock, may not? What would you speak to pursuing entrepreneurship, to all those who haven't?
You can't wait for even one more second. If you really know in your heart what the right thing to do is, if you know it, if you've been telling all your friends, just trying to get anyone to listen to you. For me, it was self-evident. Tiny robots in the human body operating with some form of autonomy, not powered by capital equipment, but actual little robots doing things inside the body. To me, that just seemed like such an obvious, explosive opportunity, right? So why did I sketch the logo in 2014 in my notebooks, in the margins of my notes when I was, supposed to be working on, some other med device at the time? Instead of doing an engineering test report, I'm sketching the Endiatx logo, or I'm sketching some form of PillBot. I sketched it in 2014. I really sketched it in 2015, 2016. I sketched it in 2017. And finally, 2018 rolled around, and I finally stopped thinking that I had to do it all myself, because while I had been sketching logos, I had been trying to learn how to code. I'm such a mechanical type. I'm a good mechanical designer, but I'm no software engineer. I'm not an electrical engineer. And here I was surrounded with Arduino kits, trying to get my LEDs to blink while trying to design tank treads to move the robot around. I was swamped. I felt like a fool. I felt like an imposter because I didn't possess the whole skill set. And I was just languishing, and I was descending into depression during that whole time. By 2018, though, with Burning Man just going ballistic and with our Tesla coil finally going off, and with a theme camp of 75 people from all over the world representing technology and VC and entrepreneurship, I finally realized the one thing I'd been missing all along was the team. Because with Burning Man, I was a good maker. I could go into a maker space and make some awesome stuff. I could probably outbuild 3 people, 5 people off the street, 7 volunteers off of Facebook. The great Torrey Smith, I will beat you all. But the thing is, if you get 10 people or 11 people involved, at some point, the untrained mob is going to be more efficient than the one expert. And I realized if I don't invest the time in training people, accepting their initial work and calling it beautiful, knowing that something even more beautiful is coming, if I didn't take the plunge in building a team, then I would always be alone, and I would always be alone working on medium-sized fizzling stuff. And I want to swing for the fences. My head is in the clouds, right? But what put my claws in the ground was realizing that we could build that team. So in 2018, I finally asked for help. I finally asked Dr. Alex Lubke from Google X. I said, Dr. Lubke, Alex, Maverick is what we call him. Mav, how do I incorporate a company? How do I file patents? I asked Chris, how do you fund something? Who has an angel check, right? How could you build a little cohort? I asked my friends, the electrical engineer. I asked Dan, who built that Tesla coil, who designed it. Could you work with me on the circuits? And finally, we started to have real critical mass. And I realized I could have done this 10 years ago. All I would have had to do at that point would be start, go full time, make no apologies, and ask for help. All right? All you have to do is inspire people to join you. And that's the neat thing when you're thinking about what you want to build. You want to build something small and maybe predictably successful, but limited in scope, limited in outcome. Don't do that. Do the big thing. Because when you say you're going to do something as audacious as build the world's biggest Tesla coil at Burning Man and perhaps zip line through the sparks, that gets people from all over the world involved. When we said we're going to build tiny robot pills and pilot them inside the human body, people came out of the woodwork to get involved and join the project. And so the lesson here is that it's actually easier to do a giant thing, all right? Because you won't do it alone.
I couldn't imagine a better moment to end on right now after listening to Torrey Smith and Chris Green from Endiatx, a swing for the fences sci-fi medical device story, and you heard it right here, and I hope this video turns out even half as good as I expect it to be, because we got B footage from everything. We got swimming robots that you can actually see what they've been talking about. We got the actual emotional, passionate story from these 2 entrepreneurs who have slept on that cot that you probably can't see right over there.
And we couldn't be more appreciative of Lifeblood for facilitating this and being fulcromatic in our explosiveness onto the world scene here. So it means a lot to us too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Giovanni. This is awesome.
This has been the MedTech Startup Podcast, where we just got inside the heads, the hearts, and no pun intended, the guts of Endiatx. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Cool,
you.
man. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yep.
There we go. Perfect.
And we'll just
Prime
try
that.
to keep the line of sight clear.
We should be. Put this here. Yeah. Like this. Yeah.
So now the interesting part is that all the movements are deliberate. It wasn't the case for a long time. Now, when we press a key, you do exactly what we expect to happen. And it's look normal for everyone, but this is a huge step forward for this company. And it implies a lot of tech change across the whole stack, including software and firmware, but also hardware and electronics are involved. To make this happen, it's not just tweaking something, it's literally changing the whole way we are building stuff in this company. So it's a really huge step forward.
Wonderful. So you are now seeing the PillBot fish tank flight of the day. It appears this one is going just as swimmingly, if you'll pardon the dorky pun. And of the 72 million EGDs that are performed globally every year, that probably represents only a small fraction of the people who would benefit from screening and intervention. The much more beautiful long-term vision and application of PillBot is for prophylaxis on a society-wide and global level, where everyone could be screened for the health of their gut and early intervention if you happen to catch pathology and cancer years earlier.
So James and I are sort of like the original gangsters of Endiatx. One of the most important things in founding a company is just basic resilience to emotional pain. Like when you start a company, you're almost guaranteed to run out of money a bunch of times. The question is, are you going to quit when it gets hard? And the thing about James, and hopefully myself as well, is just we kind of relish the challenge. And every time you run up into something that's really difficult, you just ask yourself, am I willing to put in the work and get smarter today? Am I willing to learn a new skill? And if you keep saying yes, you get to keep continuing. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Right. When we say we're going to build robot pills, part of that is crazy software, firmware, it's electrical engineering. But at the end of the day, at some point, if you're saying robot pills, it has to be robotic. It has to move. It has to have an onboard power source. There are mechanisms involved. And the marriage between the world of the mechanical and the electronic and even the code that goes into it there needs to be a lot of fusion between all of those areas. And so what you see right here is, let me see, we're in SolidWorks. I see the file name is PillBot 37 master, right? So this is the 37th basic iteration of this tech. And what you basically should be drawn to seeing is something that's going to fit in a lozenge-like shape. The interesting thing here is that the actual components are actually suspended by the air volume around them in the water column. The size of the robot is not necessarily dictated by the tightest we can pack. It's more dictated by the critical weight of components that can't be taken out of the device. Add up all those milligrams, and you basically have a volume of air you're going to need to float it. That's sort of what defines the ultimate volume and length. And so basically, we have electric motors because we swim in the fluid in your stomach the way that a drone might fly through the air. Now, initially, at the beginning of the company, we were trying quadcopter type designs because we were essentially borrowing directly from the quadcopter drone world. And so we just thought, hey, if you can get a fluid volume in the stomach, you could probably do similar motion. So we did a quadcopter using Raspberry Pi hardware off of Amazon, using a $3,500 3D printer from Formlabs. I mean, we started the company with $5,000, right? So it's a pretty humble beginning. We built this prototype. We were able to raise some money, about $185,000 in a friends and family round. From there, we started to go to custom electronics. This generation was the first one that had a round PCB on it that said Endiatx. We replaced the Raspberry Pi, but we still had a lot of off-the-shelf components. When we started to get down to the thumb size, people really began to take us more seriously. So we were still a quadcopter, doing really elegant motion, but at this size, people on the street would say, wow, this is really cool. You guys are working on something pretty awesome. Not quite ready for the human body yet. So June 17th, 2020, we're finally down to what I would call pill cam or fingertip size, similar to the capsule devices that are out there already. And we swallowed this thing, and it was amazing. Like, at that time, we had maybe 48 pixels by 48 pixels of grayscale. I mean, it was 5 frames per second, like extremely modest. But we knew we were onto something because with this device, we saw something in my stomach that was like a piece of tissue sloughing off. And I thought to myself, is that a tapeworm? Like, what the heck is that thing? And it wasn't just like a sea of blah. Like, there was actually something there, and PillBot was showing. From there, though, we really had to get aggressive because we were having weight problems. Our battery was super heavy at the time. You didn't yet have the Tesla effect in full effect. Modern lithium batteries today are under extreme pressure from electric cars to do higher discharge capacity. Those batteries are now helping us design better medical devices. So the device that we have today, like, this is an advanced prototype. This is the very smallest one we've ever built. This is actually a prototype quad right here. This is only possible because of the latest advances in lithium batteries. Now, the interesting thing is we're always trading off the configuration for the motor count, the type of battery, what are we a quadcopter where we thrust all in one direction and then you use differential thrust to get three-dimensional steering? Or because of gravity, do we have a thruster directly in the axis of the vertical, right, to adjust your height in the fluid column? And so I go through all these sort of emotional chapters in the design process where in my heart as an aerospace engineer, I love three-dimensional elegant motion. I love a quadcopter. But when I think about, okay, how much battery life do I need? What can a person reasonably swallow? How thick of a shell do I need for a bite test? Stuff like that. Sometimes we get a compromise, and the current device that we swallow almost every day is actually a 3-motor configuration. So it has one vertical motor to work against gravity, and then it has 2 thrusters on each side. So you get some differential thrust for steering, and you can go forward and backward, and then you have that vertical motion. So it's kind of like a Cartesian style motion system right now. So diving in on how we actually design it, you can see the copper trace here is basically our attempt to get a radio link out of the human body to a dongle through all the tissue and the fluid and the salt water, the acid in your stomach. These are all things that would attenuate a normal radio signal. And so one thing we do here is we sort of assume that the robot functions as a decent ground plane, and then we try to get the antenna into empty space. And so you kind of see the front of the bot here is kind of an air volume where mostly it's just antenna. You can see the camera up here. You see the LEDs where we make the light. I don't know if we'll actually have room for the company logo this time, but sometimes it's late at night and it's just me and that logo staring at me, and I'd like to think that I have a sort of an emotional connection to that. So you get your antenna out here. Ultimately, that antenna does sprout from one of these islands. You can see here we have bridges between those electronic islands here, because this is actually one flexible circuit that folds. I like to think of it like origami almost. So I can actually go ahead and show you what that looks like. So there's actually a flat pattern here for that antenna. So this is what I would go ahead and send to our electrical engineer, Kevin, to work with Jason. If I do, say, like a harsh front view, this then can be saved as a vector file that an electrical engineer can take into a software program like Altium, for example. They'll take that vector file in, and then they'll begin the process of the real electrical engineering. Because if we look at one of the circuit boards, this is a 2-dimensional circuit board, but it has the ability to be folded over on itself many times and occupy this really small space. The interesting thing is these islands are each 4 layers each, and so the the circuit board almost looks like a map of a city where you have streets at ground level, you have buildings like skyscrapers, right? Those would be the chips. Then you have a subway system. Sometimes you have, subway systems where lines cross each other at different levels under the ground. And then maybe you even have, like airliners flying overhead. Electrical engineering at this level is very similar to architecture in my mind. But then I guess just like what Inception, you actually start to fold this thing over in on itself. So let's go ahead and step out of the 2D land back into 3D. There we go. So that's the circuit board. What I do is mostly mechanical, so I'll hand that outline off to electrical engineers, get this thing functional. By electrical engineers, it's on the other side of the wall right there. Then we go ahead and hide this. Let's get mechanical for a minute. So just go ahead and hide it. And I kind of like this view right here. Okay, so this is back to where we started. How do these motors work? So I can actually hide the body on these motors. These motors are what shake the eccentric weights around in old Nokia cell phones. And I think we're all familiar, or some of us might be, with the old Nokia potato phone. That was an amazing generation of phones because they were sort of legendary for being tough. And when they designed the electric motors that shook those weights, they created a product line of tiny electric motors that survives even to this day. And so this is how we make thrust right now, is with a small DC electric motor that is originally from a cell phone vibration unit. Really cool stuff. And something we're excited about is trying to find the next smaller motor, the next more punchy small battery, the next family of semiconductor components that can be built into a smaller form factor. Something that is on the drawing board for us is, instead of using a bunch of other chips that are sourced, from a typical electronic catalog, once we're getting ready to really, go into high volume, or if, maybe we get some amazing fundraising milestone, we'll be able to burn all those chips into one custom chip. And so where you see us using 4 islands, we might be able to go to 1 or 2 islands, and the robot can get smaller, go into more people. We aren't going to stop pushing this until at least maybe the next order of magnitude. We see an opportunity for a version of PillBot, some evolutionary version of PillBot, to actually be rice grain sized. And believe it or not, that's actually happening already over in Paris. Our friend Bertrand Duplat with Robotics is doing their version of brain surgery robots. So, honestly, we're just kind of excited to be a part of this community. Okay, so you basically go ahead, you spin these propellers, you create thrust in 3 axes, and with differential thrust, you can have a lot of fun. So that's a little dive into the mechanical side of this, right? And so, I think one of the next areas that we could go check out is, how do we actually make these parts? How do we assemble them? If we were to, say, do most of the work at Endiatx on just the computer, I could take this design, I could send the 2D file to an electrical engineer somewhere else in the world, and that electrical engineer could probably do the work that we do. But the question would be, could they do it as quickly? Could we go through multiple revisions quickly? Like I say, this is number 37 just on the mechanical side. When you have people in-house, you get to do things very quickly and very efficiently. And if we were to look at the mechanical components and say, oh, I'll order those online, I'll have them injection molded somewhere else, what are you going to do when you need to make a small change to one of the dimensions? Some of the tools that would mold parts like we 3D print today, those are on Formlabs machines still. A tool to mold a part like that might cost as much as $75,000, and it might take 3 to 6 months to bring that tool online. I'll show you an injection molding machine that we're resurrecting. It's actually from the early 80s. It's what Lego went to mass production with for the first time. We're actually bringing one of those machines back from the dead right in the back of our shop, because we're actually going to be building our own injection molding tooling here. And so rather than spend a huge amount of money elsewhere, let's get smart here. Let's do all the black arts, radio frequency, RF design, antenna design. That's something that you usually have to hire an expert who worked on, say, a stealth fighter back in the day. And this guy will come in, or gal, they'll do $30,000 worth of work for you. It'll work amazingly well. But then you change one thing, and all of a sudden, nothing works. Or learn how to do it yourself and gain those skills, and then you're going to find yourself in control. So yeah, this is a little bit of mechanical. You can see sort of the evolution, and let's take it to the next place. So not everything is going to be injection molded right away. A lot of what we do is 3D printed. The amazing thing about modern resin 3D printing is that you can actually incorporate fiberglass particles into the resin, and you get incredible bonuses in terms of the strength and the stiffness, the toughness, the hardness of what you end up printing. And actually, these little tiny propellers are what squirt the water that generate the 3D motion that we see in the fish tank. But this is where we basically get into precision assembly, where we might need a precision soldering iron, we might need EFT, meaning electronic fluid dispensing, for little tiny micro drops of glue. This is kind of where the world of the mechanical and the electronics start to join together. Okay, so here we have the Formlabs 3D printers, and we are hugely grateful for the world of modern 3D printing, because there's just no way we could be a company without it. The way it works is you load build platforms in like this, you close it up, and then the build platform goes down, and layer by layer, using a laser, you're going to cure the part. When you pull the platform out, you're going to have your part. It's going to be the shape that you're looking for, but it might not yet have the full mechanical properties. And so what we do is we remove the parts very carefully. A lot of the way that we design the parts and fixture them to be printed speaks to the way that we're then going to clean and process them and post-cure them afterwards. And so basically, these green parts look pretty good. I can see the little propeller blades. I can see the little tiny holes where they're going to slide onto the motor shaft. So yeah, it's going to be a good little part here.
So today we'd like to demonstrate firmware. Before, the firmware was in a state where it was restarting all the time, and that was really messing with the video we would get out of the bot and our controllability of the bot. We rewrote the firmware. Now it's nice and stable. Video comes out nice and clean, no restarts, and the motor control is really nice. It really feels like a drone now. So when you have the controller in your hands and you're flying it around in the fish tank, it feels almost like a video game. It feels like how it should feel, like a small submersible drone, and it's actually quite a lot of fun. So we're really excited because this is the first time we've had this new firmware, and it's the first time a group this big and some of the C-levels even have seen this bot with this new firmware, and hopefully it should be a pretty good user experience.
Recently, we used to only be able to control these with a laptop.
Yeah.
All right, but what are we really doing? What does the future of control look like?
So it's pretty easy. The future of control for this device is on a phone, on a VR headset, on an AR headset, on every device you can imagine, including smartwatch and whatever. The goal is to create the device the doctor need and to create the device the doctor are the more comfortable with, to control them and to do the procedure in the most effective time possible.
So one question, like if a doctor has an iPhone or an Android or a laptop, is there any, what's the minimum that someone would need to actually operate a PillBot?
A device with an internet capabilities, that's all.
And then
basically.
What if you had the control device and you had the patient and you had the PillBot in one room, but there was no internet? Could you still directly control it?
Yes, of course. In local, it's absolutely possible. No internet required. Internet is only required if we do this over the internet in like long distance.
Now, what are we going to do if what are we going to do with all this data? Because it seems like we're going to be collecting more data than the world might have ever seen.
Yeah, the goal of this is to push an AI to analyze and create report for the doctor to help the doctor during their report time, so they do this in couple minutes instead of couple hours. The goal is to simplify the way we are treating and perceiving data, and also there is a lot of AI going for the automatic control of the PillBot. So we just swallow the bot. No one is touching the PillBot. It's just the AI moving the robot across the stomach.
So AI is definitely going to be a big part of it. But how would you collect data in the past? I mean, it seems like we're on the verge of a totally different data game.
Exactly. The best analogy I can do is with Apple Watch. Previously, people are going in a hospital and putting a lot of electrodes to get ECG. Right now, it's just like things on your wrist. Same for PillBot. Right now, you just swallow a PillBot, and you can take every screen you need inside the stomach. When previously it was, okay, you need to wait for 6 months, go in a hospital, take a tube jammed into your throat to the stomach, and wait. And it's long, it's hard process, it's a painful process.
And so the real value proposition here is that we intend to offer the world of gastroenterology the tip of their endoscope. And the intent is to leave the tip of your endoscope undisturbed, right? Like you want to have a look around, you want to control it, you want to go forward, backward, left, right, up, down. You're trying to see inside someone's body, you know, why they're in pain. And so that's what we want to give them, one for one, unchanged. What we want to remove is just perhaps 1, 2, or even 3 orders of magnitude of hassle in between you getting that ability to looking around. So the hospital, you probably don't need to be in a hospital for this. You certainly don't need to be sedated. You know, there is a whole new risk-benefit ratio that we're actually shooting for with PillBot. No, it's fine. Yeah.
The camera.
Well, there's no.
Oh,
Yeah, that's just pure audio.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so the real magical handoff here basically is, you know, you see the flat pattern that we create in SolidWorks, but then we hand that over to Kevin. Kevin is the master electrical engineer then who has to design the entire city. So he's basically the architect. Kevin, so what are you working on here?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Torrey, for that quick intro. So as you can see here, this is a 2D pattern of the rigid flex design.
Hold on 1 second. Pause. We're gonna get you mic'd up, so this is all.
Sorry, guys.
Keep rolling now.
Okay. Yeah, so as you can see here, this is basically the rigid flex design.
We need the mic on.
Oh, okay. And I can go into 3D. We can look at the version like number 11. Do you think that'd be better than looking at?
This is cool because it's. Oh.
Because this one has a bunch of like extra stuff that we don't have.
That's.
So works, right?
It's your choice. Whatever you think is cooler.
All right, I think this one would be cooler.
Awesome.
All right, so should we start over?
Are we ready to go?
No, I mean, we have
Yeah.
everything that's been recorded
Awesome.
so far.
Can you
so
hear me
just
now?
Yeah, we can. So
Okay,
just pick up kind of where you started talking, Kevin.
Okay, yeah. So again, so as you can see here, this is the rigid flex design that goes inside of our PillBot. It has to get folded into an accordion, we like to say, in order to fit into like the pill shape. Over here we have this origami structure that Torrey designed, which attaches onto the 3 motors in our design, the propellers that allow us to move through water. And over here we have a custom printed antenna that when it gets folded up into the accordion, it wraps around the circuit board design. Here's a nice 3D view where you can start looking at the components in a nice 3D perspective. So that's like the top side, and then if you flip it over, you can see the other side as well. And so one of the things I'm currently working on is we're working on adding in a brand new chip that is actually very, very complicated. So looking at putting it into one of these things that we like to call an island, and basically seeing what parts have to actually move around so that we can fit it.
It's basically doing three-dimensional puzzle piece, chess, Tetris. The thing that I love is just as a more of a mechanical designer, realizing that if I'm willing to learn a little bit about what Kevin does, and if Kevin's willing to learn a little bit about what I do, we find that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity where they overlap.